photo finish.
AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. Hey, and welcome everybody to our Saturday show where we go live and bring in a couple of folks that have been around guns their whole lives and answer questions like the beginning of the show says there. So we normally bring in Clover. He's busy this weekend, so we've got Tony jumping in from New Jersey. Thanks for joining.
Yep, thanks for having me.
And then I'm out here in Arizona. Tony and I have both been gun owners forever, both shot different stuff, owned different stuff, but been paying attention all this time. So I guess I should open up my screen sharing here. We'll open up the spreadsheet where all the questions go, and we'll start answering them. Last couple of weeks been kind of off track. We were doing topics and stuff, so some of these questions that came in were probably on some of the topics we've been talking about, but they've definitely been collecting. So we do this live on Saturdays. We do value the people that are jumping in live and participating in the internet, being part of the interactive part of the internet. So leave about a quarter to a third of the screen that we're looking at here to the comments that are coming in. And if you have questions, we'll attempt to address them and answer them if we can. And then otherwise we'll get into the spreadsheet right away. But first off, 500 Magnum out there says, Tony, your channel is legendary. Well said. Thanks for that.
I appreciate that, man. Trying to comment back whenever I see you under your comments. So I appreciate you watching my shows.
Yeah, 500's been active on a lot of people's chats. It's very cool. And it's much appreciated by the human beings on the other side of the internet. This isn't television where somebody just gets paid to come in and speak some lines, wear some makeup, and then go home and do whatever they're going to do. Then there's a whole crew of people that make it all happen. When you're dealing with the internet, there's the human being on the other end of it, and then there's you on your end of it. So any participation you make is seen by the person on the other end. Now, there are some groups out there, but for the most part, most of the people that you interact with in my community are going to be another human being on the other end. So it is much appreciated. We definitely know who's out there. Well, I should say most people are paying attention to who's out there. So with that, we got MC, who also hangs out a bunch. Went out and cut the front lawn. Hopefully back again. Oh, snap. Got Clover jumping in. Thanks for joining.
Hey, yeah, caught a bit of a break there. So I've got, 30, 45 minutes.
Right on. So it's just saying hey to the people that are joining us. DK is out there. Mike White also joins a lot of conversations in lots of different communities that are all in the gun realm. I mean, he might do other things there besides guns that I don't know about, but I see him all the time in different communities in the gun area. Awesome. Thanks for being out there. Robert wasn't he just over in the one of the people commenting on the Play Society podcast that Tony was on earlier with Second Amendment Foundation and Mike from Arms Room Radio?
Yes, he was. Thanks for coming over.
And he says, greetings from behind enemy lines in the DPRNJ, Democratic People's Republic of New Jersey. Is that how you say it? New Jersey? I'm still learning the vernacular. So, and then if I'm missing people, Smeggy. I say hey to Smeggy. Otherwise, let's dig in. Otherwise, we run the risk of... okay, good. I'll keep doing that over there so nothing comes out, and then I'll get to the first one. What does FMJ, SJHP, WC, SWC, or BT on a box of bullets mean? So box of bullets versus box of cartridges. In this case, you're going to see those abbreviations on both. Projectiles by themselves made for reloading, or the whole cartridge is made for shooting in a gun. Does anybody want to try to do all of these up top of their head?
It's a type of projectile. I can't see, and I don't remember what all you said. Read them off one at a time for me.
FMJ, that's the easiest one, I think.
Okay, yeah, it's full metal jacket. That means that the core of the projectile, usually lead, is fully encased in usually a copper jacket. So next,
And full metal as opposed to like semi. So I guess that's the next one. SJHP.
semi-jacketed hollow point. So because the tip is hollow, it is not a full jacket. The copper jacket does not fully encompass the core. So yeah. And
That's
then
like if you took a ice cream cone of copper, filled it with an ice cream of lead, poked your finger in the end, so it became a hollow point, and that was your projectile. So is the copper part to interface with the barrel, or is it to interface with the the expanding gases and the explosive, or not the burning component?
because lead is more malleable, right? And because you're dealing with a great degree of pressure and heat, obviously with an explosion, the lead, if you shoot just raw lead at a higher velocity, meaning more pressure, more heat, so forth and so on, a bigger boom, right? Going to require more of that. Then what's going to happen is that lead is going to melt and it's going to start filling the grooves of your rifled barrel, and then therefore start making it less accurate because the rifling is what spins the projectile, which creates that accuracy, right? So it's not going to be able to spin correctly. Imagine trying to throw a tight spiral on a football with dry hands, dry football versus in the snow or in the rain, right? Similar sort of concept there, I think.
I haven't heard it explained that way. That's a great way to explain it, though.
Yeah. And then WC, I think WC was one of them, right?
Yeah, wad
The
cutter.
next one is WC.
That's going to be wad cutter. Tony's right. You see that in revolver cartridges more than anything. And if you're curious about a wad cutter is, good Lord, it's a really blunt. It really has no. If I start talking nerdy in projectiles, I'm going to lose people. So imagine a barrel. It kind of looks like a barrel, literally, like you would do,
Like a 55-gallon drum.
55-gallon drum. Yeah. It's blunt on the end. It's like perfectly circular, and like when you shoot paper with it, how you shoot paper with with most projectiles, and it kind of tears a little hole because it's
just like if you poked your finger into a piece of paper, it's not going to be a cut.
Yeah,
it's going to be a tear,
starts
right?
out. Yeah, it starts out small, and as the projectile goes through, it gets bigger. Well, because that's all one diameter, basically. It usually cut. It looks like you used a hole punch. It's really cool.
Well, that's what I usually say is think of a hole punch, and now take that part out of a hole punch and put that in the bullet, and that's exactly what it's going to do. Like Clover said, you throw a 55-gallon drum at a piece of paper, it's going to be what a hole punch does.
I usually do this. Tell people it looks like a pencil eraser, like a brand new pencil eraser, is the projectile.
Yeah,
and it looks like a hole punch when it goes through, and you use that mostly for target shooting, so it makes clean cuts and you can score easily.
Yep.
And you can see it from far away. You're shooting at a piece of paper with 9 millimeters, approximately microscopic. So,
but you use
anyway,
38
on a 38 or a 45 or something. Yeah, you're trying to see these holes from far away, and maybe even see where they interface with the lines on the paper, the scoring, right? So now you get a nice, crisp, clean cut. Sometimes what you'll get an alternative to that, depending on the bullet and the type and everything, is that lead will kind of wipe off on the paper and give you a lead ring, and that'll kind of be a more precise than the tears. But it all, if you're shooting through newspaper versus shooting through printer paper versus shooting through shoot-and-see paper, which is almost like wax paper, it's all different, right?
Yeah, and that's one reason. That's one reason too. When you look at, any type of competition that uses a paper target, there's a certain type of paper, right? Like weight, composition. There's usually a certain type of paper that's used, and that's why they use it. Is it doesn't rip as easily. It tends to make cleaner holes when the projectile goes through. Therefore, it's a little easier to score.
So now we'll finish this, but we're going to come back to wad cutters because they're kind of fun. So then SWC.
That's semi-wad cutter. So with an SWC, imagine the bottom part. It looks like a barrel. You're looking at a barrel. Imagine the bottom half, nothing changes, right? But at the top half, it has a shoulder, a very sharp shoulder, right? And in it, a steep angle. So if you've ever held up a crayon, is how I always explain it. Look at a crayon, and crayon has that sharp shoulder on it, right? And then it doesn't go to a sharp point, though. A sharp point, it goes to a flat point, right? It does angle in, it does taper a little bit, and then it goes to a flat point. And so the purpose of that is it's still it's a little better as far as flight. It's a little better as far as feeding, and it still punches a pretty good hole. Not in my opinion, not nearly as good as an actual wad cutter, but so yeah, it's the bottom half is no different than a wad cutter. The top half literally looks like a brand new crayon.
Pretty good description, actually.
Just think of any 40 Smith & Wesson. Pretty much every 40 Smith is semi-wad cutter or tourniqueted. Same thing, right?
Tourniqueted, yeah, is too.
Yeah,
and I don't like that.
closely.
I don't like that type of projectile. That's just me.
No, it's a trying to do what you're saying. It's trying to feed, because wad cutter, we didn't really talk about it. Wad cutter is made for revolvers, kind of, and you can put it in a semi, but it's not going to feed well because you need an interface with the ramps. So semi wad cutter gives you that physical interface with the feed ramps on most pistols. And then BT,
ballistic tip, probably, or boat tail.
Oh, boat tail. That's what I
could
was
be
thinking.
either one. So yeah. I know that sometimes in rimfire you see the BT, like CCI I think has that TNT and some other stuff. But boat tail just means there's a taper on the back side of the projectile. It's not flat. That's what boat tail means. And then ballistic tip, obviously you're talking about a polymer tipped type, ammunition. Like it's a hollow point, but the hollow point is, imagine a nuclear warhead, right? You've got a rocket, and then you've got the tip that screws onto the end of the rocket, which is the warhead. That's sort of like when you're talking ballistic tip, that's sort of the way it goes. Now, obviously, it's not an ordnance or anything crazy like that. It's designed more to increase the expansion of the hollow point. The hollow point expand quicker, expand faster, and expand larger is the sort of the tech behind it, I guess. Right?
I think we've pretty much been doing. No, I think you're right. We've pretty much been trying to describe everything since it's kind of a podcast, kind of a video, but we do this live, so I am using the cheating and using the video here. So the black part of these images is the lead component of the projectile, and then the jacket or the shell, like the M&M candy shell of copper, is the outside. So this boat tail, I'm just trying to use that for most of the stuff we talked about, has basically like you're saying, just a cylindrical bottom, a cylinder that just terminates at an end, so a circle and a cylinder coming out of it. Yep. And on the other end, it can be all kinds of different shapes, like we talked about. The boat tail brings the bottom diameter of the projectile in, and that does all kinds of things. It lets powder burn in this like gap here, which is part of the thing, I think. And then it allows the energy to hit it in a different way as it leaves the barrel and spin it, which I think is part of it. But then crosswinds and physics and forces on the projectile as it's gone in flight, right? Like that's where
flight is the biggest,
right?
Flight is the biggest perk of it, is the flight pattern, I guess you could say. Yeah.
But basically, if you've got less projectile interfacing with the lands and grooves, right, then start getting into all kinds of science and math and this stuff. Nothing about guns is like rednecks just guessing. I mean, you can do that, I guess, but a lot of it is math and figuring stuff out.
Well,
and trial and error, and
that's what, if you get into the actual loading of the ammunition using the projectile, boat tails are a little bit easier to load, because as you're pushing that projectile backwards, down into the brass case, it's got a taper to it. So you don't, if you're off center the least little bit with a non-boat tail, like most handgun rounds, and that's why you flare the case mouth on a handgun round. Of course, you don't do that on rifles, but you flare that case mouth, and so that things go in there easy. So a little bit easier to load. And I think you're right when it comes to the gases, that it allows. I'm trying to think of an analogy, but imagine having
fins, right? It gives something for the gases to grab.
Well, imagine having something round that you need to turn, right, that you need to put force behind, but you can't get the edges of it, right? It's not a cylinder, it's just flat. It's like you can't get your fingers around it the least little bit, right? Um, and I don't know the analogy there, but when I was thinking about that, you were talking about the lack of the uh, what we call the bearing surface. The bearing surface is the part of that projectile that touches the rifling, the lands and grooves, right? So because you have a taper on the rear of the projectile, you do have less of a bearing surface, and that's why you will see most boat tail projectiles are a little bit longer than just a flat base, typically.
I'm just playing around, and then going back to wad cutter, we acted like everything about it is designed to interface with the paper, and then there's a whole group of dudes that are people that are a little bit older than us that would carry 44 with wad cutters because it's pretty ruthless. So that's pretty much what they use in slaughterhouses to effectively turn off mammals, right? So it's not ideal. It's not ideal. I would be using it, but it can be ultimately effective.
Another old school thing they used to do is get a projectile that was round nose and load it in upside down.
Yep.
And that would not only produce more like a wad cutter hole, but since the bottom of the projectile wasn't sealed up, it would not be a hollow point, but kind of sort of at least be a soft point.
It would still kind of peel the jacket off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's old school before they came out with before they came out with dedicated hollow points. Dang, I had it on the end of my tongue. The company that first came out with the effective hollow points out of California, I think it was. Darn, I can't think of it. They still make them today. Zell. Anyway, yeah, that was the old school way of doing things. And then one company came out with the first hollow points, and then it was just a race of science.
Why can't I think of Vel?
Yeah.
But anyway, the other guy that invented the 9. Yeah, I follow him on Instagram. They had the little frog patch this year at SHOT Show.
I really like, casting wad cutters is super simple and super easy. And I really love casting wad cutters, loading wad cutters. I shoot a ton of wad cutters, and just on the range, plinking and playing, of course. And I shoot a lot of wad cutters against steel, and they work fine for that too. One thing that when we talk about, the old timers that like to use them and everything else. So when that projectile leaves the barrel of that firearm, right, it's got mass, it's got velocity. And according to Einstein, we all know that means it has energy, right? And in order for it to dissipate that energy, right, it's surface on surface, right? So that projectile hits that target, and for it to dump that kinetic energy into that target, there needs to be surface areas touching,
mass.
Right?
Mass.
Well, surface area, not mass. There needs to be mass and velocity to get energy, yes, but to dump the energy, there has to be a surface area there, right? Surface area on surface area to transfer that energy to. So if you've got that big blunt tip on a wad cutter, it's all flat in the front, it's not tapered, it's not gradually delivering energy, it delivers that energy all at once, because it's like all there right up front, just bam. It's like getting hit by a truck, not literally getting hit by a truck. That's a lot more energy, but it dumps all that energy instantaneously, just right there all at once.
As opposed to like an ice pick, so like a smaller thing that's an ice pick that's going to shoot through like an arrow and just create a wound channel and exit, and all of its energy goes with it into the rock behind you, or like I don't know, like a 45 ball where it's going to tear and rip, but still lose most of its energy in the rock behind you.
Right. Well, it's going to give off some energy through, think about the arrow. That arrow is still dumping energy into that initial target. It's just, instead of dumping it all up front, it's dumping it along the arrow shaft, right, as it goes through. That's surface
but not
area.
all of it. If the arrow stops in the critter, then you gave it all the energy.
Yeah, it's not all of it, and here's the key: it's not all of it in the same direction. right? When you've got that
you don't
flat
always need it
end,
either in the right place.
when you've got that flat end that hits straight, straight onto the target, all of that energy is jumped right there in that particular spot. And then that's when you start getting damage to, when we're talking about critters or self-defense, that's when you're talking about getting damage to vital organs and stuff like that, simply from the kinetic energy that's dumped. It has nothing to do with the projectile itself or damage done by the actual physical projectile.
All right, I'm going to go on to the next one unless anybody wants to go. Actually, no, we had a question that came in from real life out here. DK says, speaking of ammo types, are flatheads viable self-defense? I guess we kind of talked about this. Costs more than a ball, but cheaper than a hollow point. Doesn't penetrate like ball, but doesn't expand like hollow point. I think we kind of talked about it, but just to put a finer point on it, since he asked specifically, like in 2022, and then he just followed up with, I'm assuming it's a he. I probably don't or didn't do a good job at asking my question. I could have probably explained what I'm asking better if I wasn't. Well, don't worry about that. No, we get it. We've been all on live conversations, so please don't hesitate to comment because you think you might not be able to word it right. We're all used to internet. We're all used to dealing with limited characters and getting the point across and accidentally saying the wrong thing. So we get you. But anybody want to focus on the idea of what we talked about theoretically, and then actually more specifically in 2022, if you would buy wad cutter as a defensive ammo?
No, I wouldn't buy it. Oh, go ahead.
Wouldn't go near it.
Go ahead. Let Tony. So go, Tony.
Yeah, look, man. I totally get it because things are expensive, but I would go with a quality, proven hollow point, one of the ones that maybe a PD or FBI has used already and has done all the testing. Thereby, we already know the performance envelope of that. Again, this was old school technology before they developed consistent hollow point. So on your defensive ammo, go ahead and spend the money on good proven defensive ammo. That's my suggestion.
I don't have a problem with it. So I was going to let Tony go first. I don't have a problem with it. You're talking about use in a revolver, first of all. And so there's some drawbacks when we're talking about the use of revolver anyway. It's one of them things where, okay, does it not expand? It doesn't expand, but get this. If you hole punch something, there's a hole there. It's not like an ice pick going in or a knife where it kind of spreads the skin a little bit and that can be pushed back together. You literally just cut a hole through it. So you're talking about bleed out. You're talking about, the devastation, the carnage, whatever you want to call it to that, again, critter, in that self-defense situation. And that's a big deal.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I was thinking semi-automatic. But yeah,
well,
okay.
Nobody's going to use a wad cutter in a semi-auto.
Well, I was thinking. Sorry, man. I was thinking semi-wad cutters. But anyway, at wad
I would
cutter,
hope they wouldn't anyway.
I just thought about that, and I'm glad you said something, and I'm glad you were on the other side of it because you're right. When you look at hard casts, that people do things like hunt things that can hunt you back. That's wad cutters. That's what they use. I mean, if you look it up. Like some of that stuff, that the 700 grain 500 Magnum, that's a wad cutter. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're right, man.
All right. Well, then I'll be advocate to both of these two. So there's more than one position on these. So I'm going to say no. I was going to make my caveat. If you want to experiment and go hunting with something, go shoot pigs or something with wad cutter, go for it because that's totally appropriate. Like Tony said, be careful depending on what you call a pig. Some of them turn around and go at you. So you want some, you want to not be experimenting with 22s or something is what I'm saying. But the other aspect that I would stay away from wad cutters is you're either going to get wad cutters that are made for the target, and that's not something that's made to carry. So primers and powder are components of what we're talking about. And in carry ammo, they don't charge more because they got nothing else to do, or they figure they got you bent over a barrel. They charge more because they use better components. The cases are nicer, usually designed to not corrode and have better finish and whatnot. But the primers are nicer and designed to be more, what's the word? Like they're always going to work. Like to be more reliable, right?
Yeah,
like
more reliable. Yeah,
unreliable versus any other aspect, right? The powder a carry ammo is designed to be the kind, there's different powders. There's balls, there's flake, there's rods, right? There's different powders. The reason they make them in those different shapes is not just chemistry, it's how you're carrying this ammo around. Ammo that's designed to be in an airplane or in a tank or in a fast moving vehicle, a boat, is going to be different than ammo that's designed to be put in a person. But if that ammo goes on a boat to get to the person, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, they think about that stuff when they're building this stuff. So ammo that's designed for concealed carry is going to be made to be put, it's engineered to be in a firearm on your belt a lot, and in a duty belt or that kind of thing, or in magazines in duty use. So it's going to be powder that's more durable, for example. So I would say, if you're going to get wad cutter that's durable like that, that's going to be more reliable, it's going to be hunting ammo. And I wouldn't want to go to court with hunting ammo. I'd go to court with personal defense ammo. I'll go to court with the ammo that the Border Patrol uses, but even better with the local police department uses. But I don't want to go to court with hunting ammo and have the prosecuting attorney be able to use anything about hunting ammo. Sure, technically, theoretically, it's the same thing, but you know what I'm saying? So I think the wad cutter stuff is just it's applicable to doing its job, but in real life, when you start applying society and how it's viewed and the optics of it and all that, stick with stuff that your law enforcement carries.
So I would concede, G-Web, your court, your civil suit, criminals. I would concede that to you, right? So taking things out of that realm, though, two things that you said there. The first, dealing with the powder. I have taken old weathered ammunition, live ammunition, put it in a vibratory tumbler and cleaned it up, tested it, chronoed it beside stuff fresh out of the box, and seen no difference. I mean, negligible maybe, but no difference. So I mean, I would argue that really matters that much. The second thing that I would argue is the whole idea that match ammunition. I get personal defense ammunition is usually, there's a lot better quality control behind it, but also it does matter whether or not you're in a national, international, world class competition and your firearm goes click. So match ammunition is actually just as good. Now, if we're talking about just random off the shelf target,
It's probably better.
ammunition.
Yeah. Because it's going to be concentric and weighted and way more quality control. Yeah.
Now, with that being said, even if you've got your personal defense ammunition over here, I get it. Even if you go and you buy match grade quality ammunition, there could still be a difference in the power factor of that. You feel what I'm saying? In other words, it's a hotter, fast moving round, and as we just talked about, the velocity, the speed, and the weight of the projectile affects how much energy that has. And so if you choose to go match ammunition, I think the reliability would be close to the same, but the power factor, the energy might actually be a little less. Now, does that matter in a self-defense situation at such close range? That I can't tell you, but numbers are numbers, right? As far as the math.
If you shoot on the regular with match ammo, I could totally see deciding to put match ammo in your carry.
Right.
Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I just thought I'd throw it out there just because
no, that was a good topic, good conversation on that.
Yeah, dig it. And I agree with G-Webs, man, especially in a state like Jersey where the law is going to really be against you, or at least the prosecutor will maybe trying to make political hay off your good shoot. The more things you have in your favor, the better. As my argument, why to use factory self-defense ammo, especially those approved by law enforcement. Win the fight, and then win the fight after the fight. Then you also may have a civil suit after that. So that is why I suggested that. But effectiveness, I agree with Clover. But as far as, again, criminal case and civil suit, it's better just to go with what's a known quantity that they can measure. Even going with, remember the 10 millimeter case, was that out in Arizona? Where the gentleman used a 10 millimeter to defend himself, and they acted as if the prosecutor pretty much was like, oh, he needed a more powerful gun than local PD. like regular rounds weren't good enough. He had to get this very powerful 10mm. And
yeah, he also fired warning shots, so it's not like the ideal case. And there could
no,
have
it
been
wasn't.
something about that, right? Like, hey, this guy's fired warning shots. He had a bigger gun than the police. Like this, trying to prove that this guy was outrageous or something. And
Yeah.
so like I say, it's not ideal, but it does show that they are willing to take all of that stuff and use it against us, even though it's whatever more sound or idea.
Oh, and I shot you an email, G-Webs. I shot you an email with my dates.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I've been putting out the calendar for the rest of the year. You got to really put out a couple of 2-3 calendars really to be able to get, because people don't tell you stuff a year ahead of time. So I've been putting out a calendar for the new, kind of the last quarter of the year and a little bit of for stuff. So I'll include all the diversity.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, because I think I'll do it too. Because people do want to know, prior to 2 to 3 weeks ahead when events are going to be.
Well, hopefully people can realize too that they can help you out by helping with the pizza bill, helping with some gas to get to these things. You guys shoot your own ammo, or you guys bring the ammo. So helping out with all that stuff, calling ahead, letting the, giving the shop a thanks or a couple of range rentals or something.
Yeah, man. Pizza was $230 at Gunfire Range.
I was saying that other day with those 30 people I'm watching, I think I was commenting like, here's Tony walking around and I'm wondering how much he's calculating that pizza cost was for 30 people.
Dude, I mean, I made it a joke, but it was like, yeah, I'm doing pizza math. And then they're going to have 100-person classroom over there. And I'm like, 100 people. I was like, that's going to be some pizza math, baby. That might be a phone call ahead to get a catering and a discount.
Well, it sounds, like get a couple of restaurants on board to cater.
Yeah, 400 people, yes.
Yeah.
I already got an agreement to work with Maj, with Black Guns Matter, him, myself, and Kevin Dixie. Pretty much put something together 2 years ago. And we're just waiting for Gun for Hire to actually complete doing what they do and get all that done. And then we're going to have an event, all three of us.
DK added a caveat to that, or he said he should have said flat nose because he didn't mean wad cutters. So semi-trunicated, like what I would think most 40s are. Sometimes 40s are still hollow points like that, but because of the way they feed or something, they always seem to be those semi-flat nose or whatever, trunicated flat nose. So I like hollow points still over any other. Basically, I just consider those ball for different types of feed rams.
Well, you've got round nose flat points, right? The whole semi wad cutter, as I said earlier, is different because while it has a taper to it and a flat point, it does still have that shoulder of the actual wad cutter behind it, right? So that's a little different animal. If you're talking about just a flat nose, and when I hear that, most of the time it's got a curve to it and then it's flat, right? It doesn't come to a point. I would discourage that. That is legit straight up like target and practice ammo. And I would discourage that because you have a rounded taper, again, you get into that energy issue. The dissipation of that energy is not going to be nearly as quick as it needs to be. So you're looking at potential over penetration.
Just to move along then, got an interesting one from Gunpowder Beauty, who I need to know the address of Gunpowder Beauty, if it's the same as the last address I might have, or if it's a different address, because I got stuff to ship to her. But the question is, I guess I can highlight it. Question is, what gun would you say is a good gun to carry under a bridesmaid's dress? 1911 is too big, because you can see it under the fabric they chose. I don't know if you guys have opinions on this. I was going to say something classy because I can't imagine a bridesmaid would need something legit. So I would say some kind of cool single shot Derringer or something cool.
Yeah, like a Derringer, maybe even a little double barrel Derringer, right? But yeah, of some sort.
I don't think it would. Is it beyond the question? I don't know all the traditions, all the different cultures out there, but for the father of the groom, well, yeah, that would be cool. The father of the groom to buy the bride and her maids each a Derringer or an NAA as sort of here's another little gun that you have whenever it can happen to many little tiny guns.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And then when we're talking about, because I was thinking NAA, but instead of a revolver, get those semi-autos that they have.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Those, because I just stumbled across one of the interviews I did during maybe NRA over at the NAA booth, and those are really pretty semi-autos. Ones with the wood grip.
Are those the Guardians? They call the
Yeah,
Guardians?
the Guardians. Yeah, the Guardians. They look like the old school Sea Camp.
Yep.
Semi-autos, and I mean it's not that level of quality, or at least it wasn't then. But who knows now with modern, production, probably even better than the old school Sea Camps.
Pretty well made as far as a production. Well, semi-production. I mean, they're made in one little factory, but they are basically, they're not handmade, but they're made in batches, and they're definitely, they care about them. They're not just a bunch of people.
Yeah. No, it was just talking about the legend, the stories about how, dependable the Sea Camps were back then. But then you have to understand, I'm going back to stories from the 70s, early 80s, when there weren't that many dependable small hideaway guns. Yeah, there you go. The wooden handle ones, the ones with the wood grips, I think is like rosewood. Those look really, really pretty.
Now I like Smeggy out there. Smeggy out there talking about the PPK, and then also some of the little Berettas, like the with the Bobcat. Tomcat. Those, yeah,
those are like classy little guns. I mean, if we're talking just something that looks nice, almost the equivalent of a barbecue gun but miniature. I mean, if we're talking about practical carry, P365 and that ugly. I mean, it's not ugly, but compared to these guns we're pulling up now that have a style, P365 is not really stylish unless you get into the Spectre comp that they just put out. And,
well, these little Berettas, the little Sea Camps, and the little NAAs, you can put the different grips on them. So that means somebody makes a fancy wood or some kind of fancy material grip, so you can make it fancy. They usually come in a chrome, or you could have somebody polish it up. That guy that Tony knows to polish his stuff up. Thing is, these are $500 level plus, maybe, right? Where an NAA brand new is more like $250 level. I don't know what the pistols cost.
Well, if you're talking about the aesthetic effect, don't forget that Taurus does make the PT-22, which is
equivalent to this, right?
A cheaper version of the Beretta. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and let's not forget these that most people would. Old school Colt or Browning 25s.
Oh, baby. Yeah, the baby stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the baby Browning, they used to call them. And the Colt, I forgot what Colt calls them. Those were cool. And then if you get in the Colt, again, you can get into the Mustangs, which is a 380.
Oh, the Mustangs.
Stainless. Nice. You're talking to a bunch of old heads, and that used to be the small guns back in the day. After you left full size.
Who do you think owned these guns back in the day? It's not like our grandpas were carrying these things around. These were grandma's guns.
Yep. And I think that would be a really cool, like, photo op and theme and all too. Is have garter carry and they all have the same thing there. That could be kind of neat. Roll that into the cost of the wedding, or whatever.
Oh, heck yeah!
Where'd you get this little tiny Colt, Mommy? Like, oh, Grandpa got me that when we got married, right?
Yep.
Or our uncle so and so, or whatever, right?
I mean, it's just something really cool. I'm trying to find the price on these Guardians.
They make them in batches, so they're not like being pushed out. Well, none of these little guns are being pushed out anymore in bulk. But
and we were talking about Derringers, which that brings up Bond Arms, and Bond Arms has the little semi-auto as well. The the Bulldog or the Bullpup or the
they did what you call it that they got rebranded?
Boberg.
Boberg. The rebranded Boberg.
Smeggy's over there on the Twitch, where the kids do their video gaming, and we broadcast over there. He's rebroadcasting us, so if anybody's over there, he's looking to build the list over there. So go check out his channel over there.
All right, I'm seeing Somebody's selling one for $250. And between $250 and $400, which I wouldn't do that at all for $400.
If it depends on the wedding and the cost, you know what I mean? And
yeah, true.
I mean, weddings a huge, huge industry, and there's people that spend literally tens of thousands of dollars on a wedding. So what is, I don't know how many bridesmaids you got, but let's say you have 5 and you spend, $500-600 a piece. I mean, that's minuscule in the grand scope of the cost of the wedding.
All right. Yep. $339.99 is where I found one in 32 ACP, brand new.
Not bad.
Yep. So I'm cool with that.
All right, I'm going to switch topics. We've still got a chance to hit another question, so I'm going to let you guys decide if this is a weird one. I don't know if we want to answer it, so I'll let you guys decide if we really want to even answer it. But you get these kind of questions every once in a while, so at least address it. Would you rather be shot by a 45 ACP full metal jacket or a crossbow with a bolt and a broadhead, or a crossbow bolt with a broadhead on it, assuming it was a 150-pound crossbow?
Again, no, I wouldn't want to be shot by anything, but if it's going to be an FMJ, then I'll take that FMJ hit comparatively to a broadhead.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, it's what we were talking about just a second ago, and that broadhead is gonna leave stuff cut and open and bleeding that FMJ is not. So I'll take my chances with the FMJ. Hope it doesn't hit a vital organ.
Pretty much, hoping not a vital organ, not a familiar artery, and pretty much not a bone either.
Right, true. Because let's be honest, an FMJ into a bone creates splinters that do just as much damage.
Exactly.
I believe there's only one answer to this one, because I believe these are silly questions, but it's whichever one would be shot into the web between some finger or toe that would immediately heal. So whichever one would be shot at, but otherwise there's no answer to that. Because it's a kind of a crazy one. There's a lot of angles to it. I don't know. I remember maybe as a young kid having those kind of discussions. I just don't find these discussions coming up too much. So I don't know if it's a question that I don't know where it comes from.
The correct answer, Tony was right. The correct answer is no.
Yeah, exactly. So this one's interesting too. A choke on a shotgun for. That's how it's worded. So how do you want to take that one? A choke on a shotgun for.
What's it for? What's the purpose of a choke on a shotgun?
Maybe it's what
I'm assuming. That's for patterning to constrict the barrel, the end of the barrel for when the projectiles or pellets come out. You can actually restrict it and change the tightness of the pattern. Which, if you want it tighter, if you want it more open, that's what you use it for. So if you want to keep a tighter pattern further out, like you're hunting, upland game, you want a tight pattern because you're going to shoot further. Shooting clays is another thing. Like, you don't need that tight of a pattern, at least that I heard of, because I just shoot my regular shotgun when I'm shooting clays for fun.
Yeah, you don't need it super tight. Yeah. Now, if you're really, really good, you can shoot full choke and stuff if you're really, really good. But most people, they don't shoot really constricted chokes because they're not that good. They want that margin of error.
Exactly. Even though when I was out there once, we had a guy shooting a Henry 410 lever action shotgun and was just breaking clays.
Mm-hmm. So look at chokes. You've got. Everybody probably has seen the attachments you put on the end of a water hose, right? And you can turn them, you can dial them, and there's different types of sprays. So view your shotgun patterns, your shotgun chokes as that, right? Depending on which choke you change, it gives you that spray of water. So you turn it on and it's got the big wide spray, that's almost like rain. I mean, it's not directed, and then you can tighten it up until it's just almost a laser tight stream of water coming out, right? That's same principle with changing your chokes out.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it, right? And then depending on if you're spraying the lawn or washing your car, you're going to have different reasons for the choke, right?
Yeah,
so that's why
you need more power. If you're blasting the mud off your 4-wheel drive, well, you're going to want to tighten that down, right? And get more of a laser focused blast of water. But if you're just rinsing, well, you don't need all of that. You can back it off and just get that wider pattern, cover a bigger area, get it done quicker. Yeah.
And it might be that you're doing everything and you're not able to hit this double, on the whatever game it is you're playing. There's some double that you're just not able to get it fast enough. So you tighten your choke up. So for that one hit, you can actually aim that last shot before that you miss that bird. So, you know what I mean? Like sometimes that's why there's two barrels on some guns, so that you can.
There's in sporting clays quite often you'll see people they'll have their set chokes, and I've done this too. But you'll get to a stage and you get a preview. Usually in like a sporting clays course, you'll get a preview. They'll show you what the clays do, right? And so you've got a second if you need to swap a choke out. And so occasionally you have one flies one direction and one flies the next. And it's like, it's crazy because it's not just bam, bam, right in a row. I mean, you got to literally swing 180 degrees or something, right? Or you've got one that's really bad when you've got one that comes cross. Well, you've got to get that one quick or it's completely out of sight. And then you've got one that goes straight out in front of you. And the longer you wait, the further away it is. And so those are really the tough ones. So what I'll do, having a double barreled over and under, is I'll change my second shot choke to a tighter constriction, right, to be able to get out further. And that helps me that, when I get that one that's sweeping across, then, that one going away from me is further away, but I've got a different choke in that one. And hopefully it reaches out far enough to get it before it gets away from me.
Nice.
And then similarly with birds. So, you walk up, like for us, we'll either be shooting doves that are in trees. So you're walking up along some trees that are not, they're just trees. They're not huge, giant sequoias or nothing. So these birds are going to come from, within range to farther and farther away. So your first barrel is those birds when they're right there. And then you've got that choke and your gun, hopefully, what kind of accuracy, what kind of distance, and what kind of shot you can take for those birds that are getting further off. So it's, same kind of thing applies for what comes up from the ground. We don't have pheasants out here, but quail, I guess, come up from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
For us, quails just run around there a little, but it's those kind of birds that they'll stir up and they go up. Same thing. Once they're just getting up off the ground, you don't really need a choke. Once they get half a foot, I don't know how far away they get from people. Once they get far away, unlike ducks where you're sitting there and the ducks are coming towards you, I don't think that's such a big deal, right?
Yeah, you kick them up. Yeah.
And then I guess since we're just sitting here talking, and are we going to end this at an hour and have some chance to chat off here?
Well, I've got to jump right now because I've got that party to get back to. But
I was just going to say we didn't really chat about chokes in deer. So if you got some kind of deer shot, some kind of buckshot, you might want to choke that a little bit or whatever. Again, like a Clover.
Yeah, typically if you're talking buckshot and you're deer hunting, you're going to be fairly close, and full choke is usually the way to go. And I'll end it on that. If you want to talk later, let me know, G, and we can jump on a private chat. Tony, let me know on that in the side chat. And thanks everybody.
All right, man. Thanks, man.
So Clover's got to go do some real life stuff. As a kid would say, IRL. My goal here is to have a useful show, right? A show that people can learn from and hopefully enjoy, but also gain knowledge from and ask questions. So I don't want to keep blowing off the questions over here. So if Tony's game, let's whip through some of these. I think some of them are going to end up being about the things like the truck gun and stuff they kind of already covered. But I do want to encourage people to continue using the askgunquestions.com thing. And, but I do want to try to keep these things from 2-hour epic conversations on the regular. I don't mind it at all once in a while. But so maybe since we're not even at an hour, we can still knock out a couple of these and keep it under 90 minutes. And then next week we'll we kind of back into the pace. Let's see. So I am going to continue to check out the comments that are coming in live, but I'll encourage people, if we miss something coming in live, feel free to use the askgunquestions.com. Just copy and paste the question over there, and then it'll be in our list. So we will eventually hit it. It's just I don't want to back up on the ones that people have asked already. So with that in mind, the next one is, I live in Indiana where I can legally carry and conceal with only my driver's license, but I frequently visit Ohio since I live on the border, and I've seen that Ohio offers reciprocity for licensed holders. So my question is, do I need to get an actual license to carry if I want to continue concealed carrying in Ohio? The overall documents I keep finding seem very vague. From what I understand in that circumstance, if you can constitutionally carry in the state that you live in, it's up to the state that you're visiting, and they'll either accept your driver's license as your concealed carry, and they'll have reciprocity with you for that, or they won't. So I would look at Ohio's, whoever it is in Ohio that regulates, governs, and enforces the concealed carry. Sometimes it's the Department of Safety, sometimes it's the state police, sometimes in Florida it's like the
Agriculture.
Yeah, it's weird. So
Secretary of Agriculture, yeah.
So it's kind of depends on what it is in Ohio. We've got tons of people from Ohio that frequent. So I don't know, Tony, do you know anything more specifically? That's my overall awareness of that.
All right, I don't know anything about Ohio's actual carry laws, but I would get a carry permit there just so you're covered. If they do reciprocity, or if you can get an Ohio carry, just so you have it, because, and I'm just talking about from the initial police officer stop, if you pull out a permit from Ohio, that'll be cool, because a lot of cops don't know the law, bro. And just because you have a constitutional carry where you're from, doesn't mean the police officer would know anything about that at all. I mean, so to cover your butt, I'd get the carry permit. I don't know what restrictions or how ridiculous it may or may not be. I live in Jersey, and I just assume everywhere else is easier than here.
So this is interesting. I went to Ohio. I typed in Ohio reciprocity or whatever. I found the Ohio Attorney General.gov. So this is the official state of David Yost, who is, I guess, their current Ohio Attorney General. So the main lawyer for the state, right? Boss of the cops. Is that how it works?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they're the boss of the cops. I know they're the main lawyer, but I don't know.
Well, in Jersey, they're under the Attorney General. The police are. They have to answer.
Okay, so they are. Okay, that's what I thought, because I think that's when I've heard stories in the news, and they've said the Attorney General said the police will not enforce this. I just assumed they were the boss of the cops. Okay. So in any case, the state attorney says, on their website at least, says Ohio law gives the Attorney General the right to negotiate the concealed carry reciprocity. And then here they are as of 2015. But what are we going to do? Or no, effective 2015. They have valid, I don't know, since 2015 it's been this way, I guess. But anyway, it says they have reciprocity with the following states by reciprocity agreement or by automatic reciprocity. So it sounds like what we might be talking about here is some sort of automatic reciprocity, which more than likely occurs when two states don't need to, because they both have constitutional carry. They don't need to ask each other anymore so in other words, if you walk into Arizona, you can carry a gun. They don't care where you live. They don't care what your state of residence is. I guess technically you should be able to prove that you are allowed to be in the United States. So somebody who's a non-resident illegal alien wouldn't be able to carry, but everybody else can. If they stop you and you've got a gun, they don't care if you've got a concealed carry permit in New Jersey or Illinois or Washington, because you're in Arizona and anybody can carry a gun in Arizona. So now that Ohio has constitutional carry, right, that means they don't care if you've got a license in your state.
Oh, okay, so cool.
If that's how it is, then I think that's what it would be called, automatic reciprocity. In other words, neither state cares anymore. As long as you're legal to own a gun, then feel free to carry it how you want. And I think that's where it is, right? We're in the world where Ohio and Indiana have constitutional carry. It's hard to keep track because so many states have it now.
Yeah, 25 of them now.
So I'm going to take a quick look where I try to keep track of them over at
Minuteman University.
Yeah, man. And 24 and 23. So Ohio became constitutional carry in March of 2022. Indiana also in March. And I don't know when they go into effect because those are those ones that happened this year. We were kind of talking about that earlier. Actually, I do know because I wrote it down under here. Ohio goes into effect June 12th, so it's already in effect. Indiana, it went into effect July 1st. So at this recording, people in either state can go around carrying a gun all the time, jump back and forth, some sort of weird game of hopscotch across the state line with your gun on, concealed. Nobody cares
about it. I should have picked up on the Indiana thing because of the Dickens shooting. That stopped the mass shooter at the mall. He was able to carry without a permit because July 1st was when it was constitutional carry. The state became constitutional carry.
Thanks. Yeah, that's awesome. So maybe when this was asked or not, it's been a while, but I think they didn't ask this. Let me get the date. No, they asked this since. So yeah.
And he did have a permit, by the way, even though he didn't need one. Because people have been saying other things online.
Let's see. What is a Fitzgerald special in regards to revolvers? Is it a good idea or a bad idea?
Horrible idea. It worked for the day. But no.
What is it?
The Fitzgerald special. Usually pocket revolver snub nose with the trigger guard cut off.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least the front of the trigger guard cut off. So you're depending on the double action trigger pull itself as your safety. But again, just no.
Well, let me take a look. Is that what we're talking? Okay. Well, I think I have a different opinion then. For most people, not a great idea. But for the people that created them back in the day, they were pretty cool. So they're basically a hot rod. So basically you just take an old fashioned revolver from like Barney Miller days or something, right? Mm-hmm. And all they did is literally take a hacksaw to it and hacksaw the front of the trigger guard off, and then the hammer almost always, and in this case they cut the barrel off and gunsmith the sight back on. But you usually see a trigger bobbed, and then the trigger, and then the front of the handguard or the front of the trigger guard. Sometimes they cut the whole trigger guard off, but less often because then it becomes a snag hazard and it just gets in the way all the time. But because it would be really tough. I mean, it would be possible maybe if it jammed it in your pocket in a big hurry, but because double action revolvers are such a strong trigger pull, and you still have the protection of just the trigger, if you cut the trigger guard off completely, well, then that gets a little bit risky. But with the fact that it's a little bit tough for it to snag, you still have to have a hand in there. What it does do is get rid of all of that indexing or whatever you call it when you're trying to shove your finger into the front of the trigger guard. On a revolver, it's not too tough, but if you think about it, a lot of people don't carry around a little old revolver like this. Your back fingers are up in front, kind of behind, I guess. Your fingers going down a little bit on an old revolver, and it can be a bit of a weirdness. So if you just have nothing there, it kind of lets you mitten it. It lets you just grab it, and your hand just closes, and you don't have to do any of this weird poking the hole thing. And I could see that, especially back in the day when the bad guy had the jump on you and you were the one grabbing into your pocket and pulling this out. You wanted to be able to be in the draw stroke. Remember back in the day, everybody talks about, oh, you're right or you're wrong. Well, what are you holding in your hand? If you're holding a revolver where there's a long, deliberate double action draw, then it's not inappropriate to be pulling some of that slack out as you're pushing your fist forward to create that sight alignment, right?
They actually train that way, yeah.
Right, and that was totally appropriate when that kind of gun existed. If you had like a 12-pound trigger pull, what are you going to wait until your arms are fully extended and then use your body against yourself, right? You're using just your hand muscles to pull 12 pounds. It's ridiculous. So so back in the day when you're trying to pull something out and stop being killed by somebody, let's say they had a Tommy gun with a suppressor on it. And ultra right? So I think this was a neat thing. Now, if you just handed this to some kid,
that's where I was coming at.
But I guess I don't know. I just think it'd be a cool thing to see this as an option on like an LCR or something. I know some people with a gasket, but I just kind of like them. I've only ever seen one, so I'm not going to say it's all that common. I mean, I think seen one and it come through a gun shop before.
This was something that the guys who actually, excuse me, this is what I've read. You know what I mean? By all the guys that actually carried these were experienced law enforcement dudes that were in gunfights or that knew they were going to be in gunfights as part of their job regularly. And they
Yeah.
practiced with this. They practiced everything from punching it while still in their jacket pocket, extending and laying it down with that. Also drawing, what's it? Jelly Bryce is one of the guys that used this thing a lot. He was a
bad guy though, right?
civilian. What was that?
Oh no, Jelly is one of the quick shooters.
Yeah, he was a dude who practiced quick draw and putting rounds on target as law enforcement out west somewhere, and actually helped train FBI agents when the FBI first started. They brought him in to train people because he was that good in his gunfights. And yeah, they modified guns, but they put work in back then. They put work in with that trigger, not just you bought it, you cut the trigger guard off and you shoved it in your pocket. No,
Over here on Minuteman University, I've got a page for firearms instructors.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Simon is in here down at the bottom, and then if you go up like 6 rows, there's Jelly Bryce.
There you go.
1906 to 1974, often described as the perfect shot, the FBI's first sharpshooter. He was born in Oklahoma. He was a special agent in 1934, and then for 20 years he was special agent. Yeah, I think there's movies and stuff about the dude, right?
There's movies. There's I don't know if there's movies, but I've read a lot about him because those early lawmen, dude. You were it. There was no radio call.
Yeah. What did they say? One ranger, one riot, or whatever.
Yeah. One riot, one ranger, and it's like you had to effectively put people down and be intimidating enough with your skills, your presence. All of that dictated whether you went to the gun or not. And if you had to go to the gun, you better be good and you better be fast.
And that's the thing, is they got a lot of gunfights because there was bad people back in the day when you could just be bad. And then if enough people knew who you were, you just went a couple of towns over and started over being bad until enough people knew who you were. And then you went, you know what I mean? Like that was.
And crossing state lines. It's like, all right, done. There's no, you can't chase you across state lines. I mean, before like federal government started doing that, I think marshals were able to do it, but outside of that, nope.
No radios in cars, so
yeah,
unless some
they'd
police
have to
knew who
stop
you were, you
and
could
call
just
the
slowly
police.
Walk past.
Yeah, they'd have to stop and call the police on a payphone and tell them they chase you and give a description of you to the state police. And hopefully the state police can disseminate the information to the local police. Yeah, it was not what it is today. So to open fire on a cop, as long as you could get away, I mean, that's what made a lot of the gangsters, one, so vicious and also hard to catch back in that time period prior to the FBI getting involved in that.
So good idea, bad idea. I'm going to say bad idea, but cool idea. How about that?
It was a cool idea for the time because you had very few options. But now we have better options, better training, better wallets. I mean, better holsters, excuse me, not wallets, but even a wallet holster is a better idea.
And better triggers. I mean, yeah, again, you're talking just technology. They could polish a trigger, but you're not going to change a 12-pound trigger into whatever we got on some of these guns nowadays. 3-pound.
True.
Yeah. What does a muzzle brake do? I think we've talked about this one before, but it's a good one. A lot of people hear that. Muzzle brakes are the things on the end of a barrel, typically on a rifle, but often on a pistol nowadays, as compared to a muzzle flash reducer. What does a muzzle brake do? How would you describe it?
Well, I'll describe it as redirecting the gas or redirecting the burning gases coming out of the end of a barrel to push to help reduce recoil by keeping the barrel flat shooting, or at least reduce the amount of rise from the recoil. That's what I use most of it for. Also, it kind of reduces the muzzle flash and is not as loud as a comp or other things like that. Yeah, that's what I would do.
It's physics. It's a mechanical thing you attach to the end of the barrel. Most of the time it's screwed on. Sometimes it's put on permanently or built into it, but it's, you know, physical holes or pipes or something, some baffles, some kind of a everything up until it becomes a suppressor. You can't let it become a suppressor. So there's somewhere in there, technically it can't go there. But like Tony said, it's something that physically you add to the thing so that all the, I guess it would be physics of the gases or the energy and everything that those gases create gets harnessed or pushed in a way that makes the whole experience easier on the shooter or less obvious to whatever might be downrange. Sometimes muzzle breaks are to break up what would be a lot of signature, right? When you're shooting, let's say a sniper shooting from a hidden position, wouldn't want to let themselves be known by having a big splash of powder and energy come flying out the front of their muzzle.
And also on modern, many of them close off the bottom of the break so you don't make a huge dust or dirt signature and also obscure your target, but also give you away from where you are firing your firearm.
Same with hunting too. I guess not just snipers, but in hunting, you wouldn't want to have some critter turn around, see a big cloud of smoke on the hilltop next door.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, there's a few ways to affect recoil. It's not recoil, but affect all that powder burning. One is suppressors, the other one's a compensator, and then the other's a flash hider or a muzzle brake. In Jersey, we can't have flash hiders, but we can have muzzle devices, which most people just do a comp. Difference between a comp and the muzzle brake is the diameter of the bullet. That has to be the size of the hole at the end of it. Is that and held at the end of the device has to be the same diameter as the round itself.
For a comp.
Yeah, for a comp, but that's what we can have. We can have comps. We can't have like a muzzle brake. We can't have a flat
I've never heard of that. Just I'm going to make a note somewhere because I knew that, you know, it's kind of a shady line. What's a flash suppressor versus what is a muzzle brake? Well, yeah. I guess you could say what it looks like or what it does, but I haven't heard comp because compensator is like, well, let's just throw another word out there. But now there's a definition to that word that makes a lot of sense. So
because when I built my M16,
if you make a break with the same size diameter as the projectile, you've created effectively a really effective crown out there, which should aid in its accuracy or at least its consistency so that you can dial it in. Where a break, not touching the projectile once it leaves the thing, I don't know if that actually helps. I don't know if you know, does that help accuracy compared to a comp? It sounds like a comp would help.
Yeah, comp would help if it's built like consistency, like a crown on a barrel. It'll help. I don't think. I don't know. I'll go ahead and say I don't know whether the muzzle brake will help or hurt. But when it leaves the barrel itself, the threaded barrel, I don't think the muzzle brake is doing anything except redirecting gases. I don't know if it'll affect anything. But meanwhile, when you use the suppressor, it sometimes does increase your accuracy. But again, it's usually the same diameter as the projectile.
Exactly. And as close to possible, right? As close concentrically and diameter is all as close as possible so that they can keep those gases where they want them, slowing down inside the tube for a suppressor. And that would be ideal because then you wouldn't be making any noise signature or dust signature with the suppressor. Ideally, it would make some heat to keep heat.
Your internet just went crazy.
Remember, Skynet goes live on the 24th. Oh, wow. Is that the same date as the receiver thing? It's messed up. It is, isn't it? I got to look at a calendar.
I don't know. I have my diversity shoot that day. Hopefully it doesn't. At least I'll be armed.
Oh, snap. Your thing is on the 24th. Also, I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, Wednesday, 24th.
Let me double check. Oh, no, it's the 29th. So Skynet will become self-aware on the 29th. So you have like a couple of days before Skynet happens. Right. All right. So in regards to revolvers, what is timing? Why is it important with used guns? So it's it already says in regards to revolvers. I was going to say timing is really just with revolvers, or isn't just with revolvers, but most people think of it with revolvers. So it says right here with revolvers.
The timing is when you time, was it the hand, which turns the cylinder on your revolver. The timing has to be correct. So when you pull that trigger, the hand makes sure it lines up the cylinder, which is, of course, the round part, where your projectile is, with the barrel, with the forcing cone in the barrel. It has to be lined up correctly, or else your round could hit the forcing cone or a part of the barrel, and you get a bunch of debris and pressure blast back, and it can destroy the gun and hurt the person shooting it and injure the person shooting it. So yes, it's very important on all guns, not just used ones, but sometimes that's what's going on used guns. So you can check it by cocking the hammer and seeing if the actual barrel cylinder moves at all, like wiggles when the cylinders close on the barrel.
Yeah, like if the lockup is there or if it's off or wiggly. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's wiggly, you might be able to get it to a smith and get it fixed, I guess. But you have to be aware that that gun is not ready to leave the store and go directly to the range. It actually needs to be worked on.
The good
or
news
if you're
is,
buying it from an individual, same thing.
I'd be more worried for an individual because I would say most shops are aware of just that it's a pretty basic revolver thing. So they're either not going to take it in, or if they do take one in that's got some wiggle, they'll either fix it or have it fixed before they put it back out again, or they're selling it as parts. So you're not gonna get fooled into one very often at a store, unless it's I can't even imagine a store that would do that. So
listen, I would agree with you until I remember seeing the shooting that took place in the store with the police officer shot himself through the finger, where the store bought a used semi-automatic and just stuck it under glass and never checked if a round was in the chamber.
Oh,
the cop was there with the store employee. Cop puts his hand in front of the barrel and pulls the trigger and shoots his finger.
I hear that. I mean,
that was making its way through the internet. Yeah,
I'm just being devil's advocate because I have no idea the details. I remember it, but a new employee who just doesn't understand that it's not like putting away a drill if they haven't been taught. No, there's still negligence, and it's somebody's responsibility to make sure a new employee that feels like they got access to the guns, knows what a gun is and stuff. But I could see how that could. But on the other hand, I don't know. There's no excuse for that. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. It's not like every shop is that negligent. Otherwise, we'd
no, not at all. Not at all. I look at it as check everything because you're buying a firearm, and a lot of them, hey, man, make sure your gun's good to go. I mean, because that's how I was looking at them, and that's how it was explained to me by my FFL, who found me that Smith & Wesson that I put all over everything, the 686. And he was talking to me in the store about things to check because he found it for me in a store in PA where he ran training for retired police officers. And he told me, hey, come over here, meet me over here. I got this. I want to show it to you. And I bought it right there because of him, because he'd already checked it out because he's a gunsmith and a firearms instructor.
That's priceless, right? And that's where buying a pizza once in a while, donuts, these days I'd say getting like a gift certificate thing for a place, like a lunch gift certificate for a place. You know how many people are on their crew, put $25 on there for each person, give that to the manager. Hey, this is so you guys can buy lunch at your discretion. You don't have to bring in a bunch of stuff, and if they don't like spaghetti, you know what I mean? Like I could see like bringing in donuts and they don't like donuts or something. So here's the gift cards for the local place that has options, and then if they just want coffee or whatever, everybody's. But what does that cost? $100 once in a while. Plenty of people go into a gun shop, and part of their reason for buying garbage and junk is I want to keep the gun shop in business, and that's awesome. Like, right on, do that. But I'm going to say, if you're going to spend $100, maybe don't buy the dumb gun in 9mm that you don't need. Buy $100 worth of stuff at a local place, especially if that local place shoots in a local match, right? Especially if you know that somebody in town is a big collector of Berettas and you're a big fan of that, right? So if you know that there's like when we were shooting a lot, there was this guy who had was it a Mongolian barbecue where you would get all your ingredients like in a cafeteria, and you put them in this bowl, and then you give them to a dude, and he had a giant flat metal thing that was super hot. He'd throw your pile of stuff in the pot, cook it, and then you'd get it at your table later. And that
Mongolian barbecue, yeah, awesome.
super awesome, right? He had 2 locations in town, and that guy shot constantly at the local stuff, and he supported the ranges and stuff. So where do you think everybody went, right? When after the matches and whenever we were going to meet up with gun people. And then, what was cool too is he had a special room, like the room where you'd have like a birthday party in or whatever. And if gun people came in, and you knew because the boss came in and you were all there after the big match, or like a lot of times somebody come in and train, and then after the class we'd go in and hanging out over there. So once the employees knew that you were cool with the group that went into that room, you could just, a bunch of 5 of us could just show up and take that room, without a reservation or anything. They just knew who we were. They didn't care as long as there wasn't a birthday party or something going on. We could hang out and have basically a private room. That kind of stuff is awesome. So, if you've got a place like that, get a gift certificate to it, support that place, right? Keep them in business and make your gun shop happy. Getting back to that revolver, next time a revolver comes in like that, that gun shop has to think, am I going to make the most I can ever make on this gun? Or am I going to make someone super happy, right? Who's next in line for the super happy list? And who's next in line for the, I'm going to get rich off of this purchase? And they got to make that decision. They're capitalists. They're in business. But unless they're out of business, they can make the decision. And if you're cool and that's going to make your day, and it's going to make you a dedicated, not employee, but a dedicated customer of their store, that weighs in their favor. So I like to throw that out there, that your gun shops are humans. And keep in mind that, keeping the community in all of its ways happy is one way to get to where you don't have to worry about the bad timing in a revolver. See, I brought it all back to that again.
Nice.
Let's see. So Stoner 63 Cadillac gauge. What is it? What?
Okay. Cadillac gauge. Cadillac gauge is a firearms manufacturer. They also did vehicles also. Built vehicles used in Vietnam, LAVs. They're manufacturing. They made the Stoner 63.
Okay.
One of the builders of Stoner 63. There you go.
So I don't know as much about this as I guess you. So is this something the Marines actually had?
All right, Navy SEALs are actually ones that use this. I don't know if the Marine Corps did, because I'm pulling it off the top of my head right now, but Eugene Stoner developed it. Now, if you look at it, it can be exactly. It could feed from the top like an old school like Lewis gun. It could. They had a rifle version. They had a light machine gun version. It was the same gun.
It was a system. It was like it was kind of like, I don't know what to call it, like more than Legos, but it was modular, right? Like literally
very modular. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you check it out, they had like the Commando short barrel. They had the full size carbine. They had to use a heavy barrel and make it mag fed, belt fed, and again, feed from the top. And I forget the lower right hand. I guess you could do that too and use it as like a coaxial thing.
Well, I'm thinking this is a vehicle or something, maybe.
Yeah,
it's a remote trigger. Yeah,
all in 5.56. So Navy SEALs got it because it was a lightweight belt fed, pretty much like the Mini, but before that was ever invented. So they were able to put down a lot of lead quickly in 5.56. But it had to be cleaned more. You know what I mean? Because it was like it's so modular, it had a lot of moving parts, and you just had to be an expert with it. And the main military wasn't down with that at the time. It just came early. It came like 20 years too early for the regular military.
And if it's got any issues out the bat with the whole like material fitment, longevity, any of that stuff, then it's cutting new ground, right? So it's got to prove the concept and everything else. So if it fails at all, it's going to have a lot of naysayers who are either coming along with your idea or saying it never should have happened in the first place, right?
Oh, and then you have to think about the time frame that Eugene Stoner designed this is in the 60s. This was at a time where and I'll go ahead and say the people that run the military, when it comes to small arms development, they are not a bunch of people that are adventurous or aggressive in that, innovative. So these are the same people that were touting the M14, remember, as a fully automatic, squad automatic weapon, box fed.
In 308.
Yeah, in 308, compared to, again, this thing right here that you could have belt fed in 5.56 and use the same way, or use like the IRA is now, the HK 416 that the Marine Corps is pretty much using as a BAR now in 5.56. This was capable of doing this in the 60s.
And this was still from the era of send like, what is like a platoon into an area, a town or village or something where there's structures, and just swarm it. And then you're using rifles to work your way in. You're swarming the place, and then you're using rifles to defend it. So it kind of makes sense. You're sending in a bunch of people with rifles because they're going to be doing intermediate long range stuff. But then at that same time, we stopped doing that, as a tactic, and as any kind of, we didn't do that. And then everything further turned into really concentrating on walking into the buildings, knocking over doors, and shooting super discriminately only certain people. And nothing about that is like, let's have belt-fed long rifles with all this extra. It went back to MP5s almost for a while.
Yeah, think about now. This again, mid-60s, U.S. military is in Vietnam. These are the belt feds or the squad automatic weapons that you had. You either had a BAR or a M1919A6.
Yep,
and then the M6. Yeah,
in 306.
In 30-06, and then you had the M60 come online. But the M60, I mean, I toted the M60 E3, when I was in, and that was still generationally better than what these guys got issued now.
Yeah, what's an E3? Short one?
The E3 was the one with the, it was shorter. It had the foregrip built into it. And it was a lot lighter. I think it was like 18, 19 pounds, something like that. The Echo 3. There it is, right? Yeah.
This one?
Yep.
It's almost like a bullpup-ish one? Okay.
No, it wasn't bullpup. It just was shorter. It just was shorter. It was lighter. Yeah, it's not like I loved it or anything. This is just what they gave me to go on patrol with because I was the biggest dude in boot camp.
But yeah, definitely not a lightweight gun. It's 60-something pounds empty, right? And then 308 ammo doesn't weigh nothing about it.
And it has a box of 100 rounds with it. And I'm like, yo, I need to start working out more and lose weight.
How long could you shoot a barrel before you were swapping out barrels right away?
Again, I just did this in boot camp, so we didn't swap out barrels. They just had me running a patrol carrying the son of a gun.
Yeah, because we only shot it for familiarization. You'd say just to shoot it. So here's how you carry. Here's how you do stuff, and then here's how you pull the trigger. Next, and then we shot laws. It was like
now go clean this thing, and I want it so clean that when I run a Q-tip over it, it'll come back clean. That's ridiculous level of cleanliness, by the way. But yeah, that's Cat Gauge Stoner 63, and it pretty much still kept it in inventory for a long time, even though the regular military never adopted it.
Yeah, I never even had. I'd seen it, probably not known what it was, and then when the internet came around, somebody or another probably did a video, and I watched it, and I'm like, okay, now I know what it is, but I don't. I like Stoner, but I'm not a Stoner fanatic. I keep track of all of his designs and stuff. He's interesting and stuff, but I don't know all of his designs.
I think somebody tried to put out another Stoner based on that. I think it might have been on Forgotten Weapons. They might have done one just to do it, kind of like Brownells did with the whole M16 series. Someone might have did that with a Stoner. That's one of those things I wish I would have gotten in on, just because it's such a niche thing, but if you know about it, it's like one of those cool niche things.
The next one is a shotgun. Is a shotgun a good truck gun? Why or why not?
I think we said that.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Oh, I thought we talked about that last time. I think it's a great truck gun, only because that's what we grew up with as truck guns down south. Because we could hunt with that also, so you could have just that one gun for that. Same reason lever actions are good, though. All the ammo is aboard. It's kind of compact compared. Doesn't have a magazine sticking out of the bottom. It's tube fed. Pump shotguns definitely are, more dependable, especially back then. Now you have some really good semi-autos, but the pump gun is really dependable, especially if, one from the big 3 or 4 manufacturers, whoever you want to call it. Yeah.
So if I got nothing else, yeah, but I don't like it. It's not my go-to. If I got to pick any 4, it's going to be my 5th option. I just don't like shotguns that much. I'm not going to, I can't say anything anti, except for you don't get to decide where each pellet goes, which is awesome when you're shooting at birds and not awesome for other situations. So I know that it doesn't always matter, but I'm just thinking Murphy's Law. Like when I don't want it to, I'm going to get a pellet. You know what I mean? Or a buckshot, right? Like I don't want a 38 caliber pellet going somewhere. So for me, I just don't like that element. And I understand that you can strategically choose which round is going through a shotgun, which I understand. So I'm not adamantly against them, but they're just last on my list because, like you said, a lever action rifle, I think fills the bill so much better. You can literally put shot in it if you wanted to go after rabbits or birds. You could literally do that. It wouldn't be easy. It'd be something like a 410, but you could. And if you got a 45 410 lever, then you definitely could. Pulling out a shotgun, if of all the guns you pull out, a shotgun is going to have the best optics. It's normal. People are okay with it. Nobody's going to freak out. They're going to think you're there to help more than likely. But I think it's similar with the lever gun. Nobody thinks you're crazy with a lever gun.
Yeah.
I think we can normalize AR-15s because you're the good guy pulling out a good guy gun, right? Like, so I think that we can normalize the other stuff. And if we default to what scared people are okay with, that's okay. But I don't think we have to end there. So that's why I like other guns. I'm definitely going to give an AR the option. You put a light on an AR, you got multiple magazines for reaching out at distance. You can swap magazines, ammo, if you really needed to. You can put a tourniquet on all of these. I guess that's a good idea with any of them, but mainly the light, and then the light, I guess, on the AR. But for, like you said, the AR is kind of a lame option for most people, most of the places in 2022. Unfortunately, still. So,
yeah,
the lever over shotgun. I don't know if I'd go bolt over shotgun, but
no,
I would almost go Mosin over shotgun, but I guess probably not. But anyway, so I just like to be ornery about it because I just, and also the limited ability. If you carry around a pocket full of shotgun ammo, that's like 20 rounds, 50 rounds if you're lucky, but probably 20 rounds for most people if you're lucky. Where 30, 100 rounds with an AR, right? With a lever gun, dozens and dozens of rounds, and you can still be discriminate, have a couple of different types of ammo with the different guns. But I don't know. There's always something to be said for the big fat ammo. So in a stressful situation, loading a shotgun is probably going to be the easiest thing to load. But I don't want to. Well, I have to keep eating that horse. Then what options to secure your truck gun when away from the truck? Keeping it out of sight is probably the number one, and then
what was that?
Keeping it out of sight just so that it's not, something that people even think about. If you can hide it under something or behind something, so that it's not obvious that it's even there.
True. Also, you can do the whole cable lock thing if you want to do that through the action, but that's going to affect you. And if somebody tries to get it, they may damage the firearm as they're trying to yank it out. But it is what it is. There's also various gun safes that you can get to lock it up. But yeah, number one is out of sight. The other thing is to secure it when it's out of sight. And 3 is restrict access to it when it's out of sight.
And then I'd say like tennis racket bag, pool cue bag, something like that, like a guitar bag maybe, but or violin case or something, and then take it with you if you can. Like get something that breaks down or something that's not so big, and then just bring it with you if you can. But otherwise, and then like what I did is you go to the local used sports place. And I don't know nothing, but I went, what's the cheapest tennis racket bags? And then they gave me ones. So that was pretty cheap. So I'm pretty sure the ones that they give me are some brand that somebody breaks into a place and knows anything about tennis. They're not like, right on, I got the brand that I'm giving away to people. It's probably like a toy brand or a child brand or something. So
well, you got like the Rawlings, which is like entry everything. And they sprawl their name all over everything.
Yeah.
Or maybe even Adidas maybe does it because it's so generic a thing now.
So people that are in the know are going to be like, "Oh, this is an amateur. I don't want that to waste my time. I got to carry around an amateur tennis racket, So they might even not even grab the bag."
And I see Shaggy threw down here AK with a folding stock. Depends on which way the stock folds, man. One of those under folders with the annoying angle and the beard puller, maybe not so much, but a side folding AK stock, a solid side folder with the those definitely work. The modern side folding AKs.
That's interesting when you brought up the beard thing. A lot of people that don't have beards or any kind of facial hair don't think about the ways that our human body interfaces with things like stocks, and mostly stocks, but slings and things sometimes too, helmets or anything, right? But people don't think about that if you don't have facial hair. It's one of those, just brought it up as interesting. I remember a couple of conversations, and then they'd be like, "Wait a minute, you got a beard?" Like, "Yeah." "Oh, okay. No wonder you hate this. It would."
Yeah, no wonder you don't like this thing. Yeah. Another thing is they call them non-NFA items or things like that. The 10.5 inch, 12.5 inch ARs, AKs that fit in that little niche. I'd check those out too, again, for truck guns, because they fill out something small. Again, you can put in a tennis racket kit. Well, I don't know how tennis racket, but I know they sell one for violins that you can do that. But again, that's a musical instrument in the car, and people will steal that.
Again, there's probably ways to make it look like get one that a kid had for a practice one, so it looks all beat up, and make it look like a practice one. Although you're right, like anything's in a musical instrument case is probably going to be grabbed.
Yeah, for me, because Gun Foams sent me one, and it was a Savior guitar case, and to me, that's something that when I'm flying with the firearm, I can pick that sucker out when it comes on a carousel, and it doesn't look like a firearm. And the other thing is to just be disguised as what the case is when I'm going into hotels and things like that.
So you're standing around with this guitar case, minding your business, and all of a sudden a bunch of hippies just kind of sit around you in a circle waiting for the songs. That's got to be a
waiting for the music to start.
Yeah. They throw
I'll just tell them I'm a roadie. I'm just telling them I'm an old roadie for BB King. Let them figure it out.
All right. Well, we're right at 90, so I think let's cut it, and then that gives Clover some stuff because he's getting paid for not even being here. So we'll leave some of these questions for him. Anybody that if we missed any questions, we encourage you just head over to askgunquestions.com and throw them over there, and they'll be in the list here for next week. And as we head out, your next one is the 24th. Your next diversity shoot is the 24th. Next Wednesday.
Oh yeah, 24th next Wednesday. You're broken up, so I didn't hear you. Yep. 24th next Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. If you go to Simon Says Train on Instagram, Simon Says Train on Facebook, or the second is for everyone on Facebook, and second for everyone on Twitter. All of it in my profile. You'll find you'll have the ability to purchase a ticket. So hopefully, see you there if you live in Jersey or PA or even New York City.
I was going to ask you. You use the Eventbrite thing. So does that charges you, or is that charged?
It charges, but it doesn't. I mean, you guys pay the $1 and something. Like when you purchase a ticket, I think it's $1.78 that you guys pay between tax and the fee.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say. So they don't charge you. Like if it's $1.50 on our side for taxes and fees, and it's $1, you get the $1 part. It's not like you got to pay for the service.
Yeah, I don't have to pay for the service because the ticket buyers do, which is cool. So when I split the money between me and the range, at least I know what I'm, what I mean? When I know I sell 25 tickets, it's split down the middle between myself and the range.
Now, if someone wanted to support the Diversity Shoot project and they went over there and bought one, would it mess up your count, or is there?
No, it wouldn't mess up my count at all. I do a head count. People can do that. That's why I leave ticket sales open till after, because my event starts at 6. I leave ticket sales open till 7. So if anyone lives outside of the area and they just want to assist us, purchase a ticket between 6 and 7, and you won't throw my count off.
I was going to ask then, maybe I'll ask you off air here, so I can put it in this show, but is one of my things. I was just curious because I was looking at how to put your diversity shoots into the calendar or whatever, and I was going to try to link right to that. So I was going to ask, I guess the next question was going to be, are you able to put other ones in there that are upcoming?
I'm going to have to work on that. I just shot you the link to the tickets for Wednesday in our chat here on StreamYard. But I really need to, I got a couple of things I need to do with the funds immediately. One is get the website updated, and the other one is to get my laptop done. So look at that guy.
There we go. That's what I was looking at, because I was wondering if you could put a thing here that has them all, and then I could link to this page right here.
No, okay. Is that, what page is that? Just to the page for Eventbrite?
I think it's your Tony Simon page.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it shows up like one upcoming event, and there's not more than one, but let's say there was 3. I'm guessing they would show up here as like 3 upcoming events.
Let me work on that then.
Yeah.
Let me work on that.
This link to people, and that's what you were just talking about. If somebody wants to support what you're doing, they could just go to this Eventbrite, buy a ticket, and you're saying that's not going to screw up, like you're not automatically buying pizzas based off of this. This is really just going into the funds, and then when people show up, that's when you make the decisions on what to order.
Yeah, because by 6 o'clock, I'm already ordering the pizza. So after 6, when you're doing that and purchasing tickets, I know it's somebody who, is outside the area usually.
Right on.
Which is awesome. Doesn't affect pizza math.
All right. Well, with that then, we'll say thanks again for hosting those and for taking the time to join us. Clover joins us each week, and our goal is to offer a perspective on whatever kind of random assortment of questions come in. There's sometimes questions from people that have been around guns for a while, sometimes questions that are for novices and everything in between, but give you some spectrum of answer, and we kind of wander a little bit. So hopefully it's entertaining, and hopefully it's a little bit more insightful than maybe reading about it on Wikipedia or something like that. Also, it's a way for us to play around with the internet, and you have the ability to interact with this whole thing. Just go over to the website and type in something. All that's going to happen, I don't need any info from you. It just shows up. Whatever you type in there shows up here. If it's weird, we delete it. If it's normal, we'll answer it. Some people show up live in the same way, ask us a question, be part of the show here. And we appreciate it. It's a way for us to keep the conversation going and evolving. So we appreciate the time of Clover and Tony for joining us here, and your time for joining us live, or those who listen in the future. And I guess I was going to say we appreciate our Patreons. Both Tony and I have people that subscribe to our projects, people that throw a cup of coffee worth of subscription, or maybe taking us to lunch, that level of subscription, $5 to $25 a month. They do that through the Patreon system. We use the Patreon for our blog. We put announcements out there every once in a while. We have some off-air stuff, or like invite people to do conversations or something. But for the most part, those people are helping our projects exist. So we have a scroll at the bottom of the screen down here that thanks those folks. For us, it's about 148 people right now. And doesn't pay all the bills, but it certainly makes it possible for me to spend the time on projects like this one. And I know Tony's definitely doesn't pay for his gas or his ammo, but it gives him some resource and a little bit of encouragement. But definitely gives us a pathway to support Tony. So we want to say thanks to those folks, and to the folks that are watching live. We had another encouragement down there. It says if you type #AskGunQs in the live text, you had a chance to win a cool patch. So at this point, I believe only 2 people have paid attention to that scroll and done that. So I'll give Tony a second here. Do you have any ideas for which patch we should offer today as a giveaway?
Do you have 2A4E patch?
Oops, I should have anticipated that. I tell you what, I have to go look for that. Tell us what the 2A4E patch is, and I'll see if I got any left in the pile.
So we did the we came up with 2 patches over the last couple of years. One is a 2A4E patch. It's about, what, an inch and a half wide, maybe not. The other one's huge, and it's pretty cool. I'm glad you guys were able to support us and allow us to build these. And I've been giving them away to people that have donated to us live or as prizes at diversity shoots. So pretty much you can either buy them from G-Webs or get one as a gift from me. And that's the only way you can get one of these things. And I really appreciate all those out there that have supported the work I've done. Shoot, I say I very rarely because I can't pull this off alone. I have a group of volunteers and ranges that help me out to do this because Tony by himself can't pull this off. It's people financially supporting me from other places that makes this happen in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. So if you can support the work I do, go to diversityshoot.com, click on it, and you can donate to our PayPal, or you can purchase some of the swag and the funds go to different organizations. That's great. My swag from the Lovetron swag with the bubble bath photo that actually goes and helps Aaron Paulette out with Operation Blazing Sword and Pink Pistols, which is the largest LGBTQ Second Amendment organization in the country. And we also have my t-shirt guy who makes this shirt "Gun Control Equals Racism," which is I'm wearing today. And he does this shirt for cost. But if you purchase my other black or white 2A40 shirt, I get some of that money, and that helps us with the cause. So please help us out if you can. And if not, just spread the word. Thanks, 500 Magnum, for listening to our shows. If you go to Simon Says Train on YouTube, you can hear my previous shows until I'm able to get my laptop repaired so I can post my podcast to YouTube again. You can find me on Spotify and iTunes and a lot of other rooms like Podbean and Cast. But you can find them on a lot of the podcast apps. You can find the Second is for Everyone podcast or 2A4E podcast. So give it a listen. I just put one out last week. I'm writing another one today, and hopefully I can get it recorded Sunday. You're back, Pete?
Yeah. So I was looking around, and I actually don't have any of the big ones anymore, I don't think. At least not in any kind of pile that I'm going to give away. I've got them on my patch panels, but nothing on the pile. But what I do have is one of these little microscopic ones. So the story of these 2A4E patches, let me bring this one up, is, where's the real one? Or the good one? We did a patch batch. There was a project, since I have a hookup on getting patches made that are decent. You know, they're not horribly made. They stand up to time. The white doesn't fade to the colors behind them. Velcro is attached well. I have a good relationship with the factory. And, you know, so I have this resource, and my goal was to offer people in the industry an opportunity to get together and work together for a goal, and then at the same time to participate with patches as merchandise, something that's non-perishable, easy to ship, and colorful. It's your logo, so when you share it, people tend to take pictures of it and share on social media. So, oh, I talk about something that's too legit, and we got a national 2A alert. We're talking about stuff that's too legit. I'm supposed to stop. It's a national thing telling me I'm supposed to stop talking about this. So the idea was to give people some resource and to create a crowdfunding project that a bunch of different projects could participate in. Some YouTubers, some friends, some projects that I thought had potential, some people that had been doing stuff for a while, and people that were brand new, bringing them all together so they could all participate to promote the crowdfunding project, so that they could all see behind the scenes what it's like to do a crowdfunding project, to see from the planning through the follow through to the after product, you know, creating the project and shipping it out and all that. And Tony was one of the people that participated that first time around. And we ended up with a miscommunication with the manufacturer. So I probably wanted something between this size and this size, but with turning out when you do $20,000 something worth of patches, something gets hit in the meat grinder, and it was my interpretation of this patch. So it came out decent, but I mean, it's not quite a thumbnail, but it's a Ranger eye, but nowhere near what we expected. So this one was the first year of 2A for E. We did the same thing in 2020 and got back to real size patch for Tony. We ended up doing a couple of them this year or that year, but very well. There was only the one batch of these, so 200 of them or something went out to Tony, and like you said, he gave these away and did whatever he did with them. But then I just kept a couple. The slop I had for in case shipping people had issues or whatever. So I had just maybe a handful of these left over, and that's what'll be up on the chopping block today for anybody that puts in that hashtag.
Nice. Appreciate that, man. I didn't think it was going to be a pain in the butt, but that's awesome.
You know, it's all about learning. And let's see, I'm trying to remember, did anything else? The rest of the patches, you know, came out pretty decent. That was the Yankees Kool-Aid one. I guess that one technically got copyright and, you know, trouble with copyright, but that's because he basically stole their copyright or whatever. But Yehuda, that was that year. Florida Carry, Ghost. Got Ghost Tacticals, Glow in the Dark. I was able to surprise him with that. He didn't see that one coming. That was Clover Shotgun. That one came out pretty good.
That shotgun was huge. Wasn't there AK in there too?
That was the same year, but a different project. Okay. But yeah. So this one is very few people would have had these. However many people participated in the project, and then the people that had some, you know, relationship with Tony. Did you give these out to people that showed up at the things? Or
not like that, but yeah, like my guys that actually volunteered to help me, because some of the guys are in the patches and some of them I just wanted to thank them, dude, because they volunteer their time too. We're talking, I mean, at that time like every other month, but now we're talking twice a month. I have some of the same guys showing up. How do you thank people for doing this work, using their own ammo, using their own guns, taking their own time, getting home at 10, 11 or 12 o'clock at night from these events? I think it's awesome, man. So I try to give them stuff, give them ammo, swag, something.
Yeah, these are cool because it gives you, like, when you give them branded stuff that's yours and it's decent. Like I say, these are decent. I wouldn't be working with this place if they didn't make good stuff. But when you can give somebody something that they've, I don't want to say earned, but they're part of, I think that's cool. Like that's what these patches and morale stuff is all about. Like, it's to let people know, like, you don't just get this, right? Like this.
Yeah.
So why isn't Mike showing up? Ask Gun. Oh, because of the apostrophe now. So it's got to be correct because of the robots. So Mike put in Ask Gum, but then it didn't take it because of the M. This time it's because of the apostrophe S. No apostrophe. It's my fault for using a hashtag that's technically inaccurate with the QS like that, but I also hardly ever use punctuation. Now, I don't know why G23s didn't show up. That should have gone up to 4 right there. Maybe if I have to refresh this. Oh, I have to go back over here now. So we're just giving people, for the people that are listening in the future, perhaps, we're giving the people that are showing up live the chance to, I don't think capitalization matters. We're giving them a chance to type in the hashtag. It says we only have 3 entries still. I don't think it matters if I put the hashtag in here or not. Weird. I guess it does matter if I put the hashtag in there.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's weird. So we have Smeggies. G23 already put it in earlier. That's why. Okay, so that makes more sense. But now we only have 2 for some reason. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to get rid of the hashtag. And now we have 3 again. So weird. All right, so I think it's between Smeggy, G23, and Mike. We'll find out. Yep, that's what's happening. So thanks for participating, guys. And the idea is to just say thanks to the people that are listening live. And in this case, Mike White will be grabbing this patch. I think I am allowed to send it to California. I might have to remove some of the Velcro. I'll check with Allen Anchor, and they'll let me know.
We'll have to see if it passes through DOJ.
And then, of course, Ron, just after we pulled the trigger on the thing, sorry about that. We waited, though. We lagged as far as we could. We were almost up at the 2 hour. I really tried to shoot this at an hour, then like, okay, let's aim for 90 minutes, but it just can't happen. The goal here is to ramble a little bit, is to just talk about guns and to, I don't think we're trying to normalize guns, but we're trying to make people aware that guns are more interesting than defending our rights. They're more interesting than whatever's on the store shelves. And sometimes the stuff that is on the store shelves has a lot more story to it than its caliber, its grip angle. And you know, hopefully we can just make things interesting and understandable at the same time. All right. Well, with that, thanks again to everybody who participated live. If you're listening in the future, give us some feedback. Each of us is on Patreon. Encourage you to check that out. A lot of people, like I say, throw a cup of coffee worth of support at us each month. Some people like to say, hey, I wish I could take you out to lunch. Again, throw $25 over on Patreon. It literally gives us the ability to do what we're doing. And we are probably, these other guys are the same as me, losing people justifiably. Times are getting tough and not everybody has the ability to subscribe. So if you're adjusting things and moving things around and it's within a budget to have $20 to subscribe to the Second Amendment stuff that you value, then we'd encourage you to throw $5 each of our ways, take that other $5 and find something else of value over there on Patreon. I really think you'll enjoy it. I appreciate the support that what I get in return for the support I'm part of over there. And I can definitely tell you I wouldn't be able to do this if it wasn't for that Patreon thing. Our overall goal, my overall goal, is to get enough people figuring out the potential of Patreon that something like a Brownells or a Midway. Imagine if Midway and the energy they put out into support an NRA were to support projects the size of Tony or the DC Project or Faster Saves Lives. And imagine the momentum Faster Saves Lives would have had if in 2017 Midway would have pushed their effort into a gun community version of Patreon. And instead of each of us having to sell grip angles, we were able to just appreciate the variety and nuance of each of our projects and products out there, the same way that NPR or PBS celebrates, you know, the different ways that we can use the different broadcast mediums out there. All right, I'm going to leave it on that and say thanks for watching. We'll be back next week with more of the same. Tony, what's your next, besides the 2A for E diversity shoot on Wednesday? When's your next podcast?
My next podcast, hopefully I'll be writing it and recording it tomorrow. Writing it tonight, recording it tomorrow, hopefully. If not, it'll be out by next weekend.
Right on. I'm having Charlie Cook on to talk about his newsletter. Maybe I'll have you on just specifically to talk about podcasts and the tools and tech that you use. Something I'm curious about to hear, like some of the nerdy stuff about how the different content creators are getting it done. So sometime when I got the dates that you gave Clover there, maybe I'll pick one of them that Clover doesn't take.
Okay, yeah, I got to shoot him the dates because I was comparing it to my my event dates, and you know, you don't want to book them at the same time because I accidentally did that with someone with a month lead time, and I still managed to book it on the same day as the diversity shoot. Yeah,
I do it too. That's why I've been trying to use a different type of calendar over on that gilded thing. So, but okay, thanks again, everybody, and me and Tony will talk.